Study the graph below. Study the graph below showing the level of two hormones produced in the ovary. Two hormones produced in the ovary. What are those two hormones? Estrogen and progesterone. And changes to the follicle in the ovary. Changes in the ovary are these changes from the follicle to the primary follicle, secondary and tertiary, up until it becomes the Graafian follicle with the ovum, right? And then up until it ruptures and release the egg, and the corpus luteum develop, and it starts to degenerate after some few days up until it disappears. Ne? Right. Let us look at the first question. What does the first question say? Name the hormone represented by graph A and B. Graph A and B. What is this hormone? Hormone A is estrogen, and hormone B is progesterone. We've already talked about that. I think you now know the first hormone that increase, or that will cause the graph to increase first. The first graph that will increase will be the graph of the estrogen, because it's the one that increases because of the developed Graafian follicle. And then the second graph, or the second graph that will increase will be that of the progesterone, because of the development of the corpus luteum, or the remain of the ruptured follicle. So the first graph will be the estrogen, graph A, and graph B will be progesterone. Right. The second question, for each hormone, name the structure in the ovary where it is produced. For each hormone, each of these hormones, hormone A and hormone B, where is this hormone B secreted in the ovary, and where is hormone B secreted in the ovary? We've already mentioned that hormone A is secreted by the Graafian follicle, and hormone B is secreted by the corpus luteum in the ovary. Right? The third question. Name the other two hormones involved with this cycle. Name other two hormones involved with this cycle. What are those two hormones? We said when we talk about when we were discussing the menstrual cycle, there are how many hormones that play a role? There are 4 hormones, 2 secreted by the pituitary gland and 2 by the ovaries. And we've just mentioned the estrogen and the progesterone. What are the other 2 hormones? The other 2 hormones are the LH as well as the FSH. The fourth question, use the information from the graph to account for the shape of graph B. Use the information from the graph to account for the shape of graph B. Information on the whole graph to account for the increase in for the shape of the graph in B, the increase in the amount of estrogen and progesterone, and the decrease in the amount of progesterone. What causes an increase in the amount of progesterone? The corpus luteum, as it develops, it causes an increase in the amount of progesterone, and immediately when the egg is not fertilized, the corpus luteum degenerates, and when the corpus luteum degenerates, that degeneration of the corpus luteum causes the decrease in the amount of what? Of progesterone. Right? The fifth question, which process occurs in this female shortly after day 14? Which process? That one is simple. We all know immediately after day 14, what happens? Ovulation. Ovulation, and then ovulation will cause the decrease in the amount of what? Of estrogen, and increase in the amount of progesterone. So the process is ovulation. Explain how the process named in question 2.5 relates to the shape of graph A. How ovulation relates to the shape of graph A. Immediately after ovulation, the follicle is now ruptured, and when it is ruptured, what happens? there's going to be a decrease in the amount of estrogen produced by the ruptured follicle. Right? Did fertilization occur during the cycle in the diagram below? Let us look at the diagram. Immediately when there is a decrease in the amount of progesterone, what does that mean? It means the egg was not fertilized and the corpus luteum degenerates. When the corpus luteum degenerates, what does that mean? It means the egg or the ovum was not fertilized. So there are two evidence that shows that the egg was not fertilized: the degeneration of the corpus luteum and the decrease in the amount of progesterone. The last question, explain your answer in question 2.7. Oh, it's obvious. The first question, did the ovulation, all right. The question 2.7, did fertilization occurred? No. You give evidence why: decrease in the amount of progesterone and degeneration of the corpus luteum. I hope you now understand the menstrual cycle with the two cycles that make up the menstrual cycle, which is the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle. When you come across these questions in the exam, I hope that you are going to excel on them. I think we are done now. And thank you for listening to this program.